All right, so get this. We're talking about a physics engine that can simulate a robot arm moving at over 43 million frames per second.
Oh.
It's like watching an entire movie in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling.
We're diving into Genesis, a new physics engine that's not only insanely fast, but surprisingly accessible, too.
Yeah, accessibility is a really important aspect here.
We've got some fascinating articles and videos here that really caught our attention.
I was reading those too, and yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Sure.
What exactly is a physics engine, and why should we care about how fast it can go?
Well, a physics engine, in the simplest terms, is software that simulates the way objects move and interact in the real world.
Okay.
Think of it as the invisible force behind the realistic movements in video games or the stunning special effects in movies.
Uh-huh.
But its applications extend far beyond entertainment.
Right.
We're talking scientific research training robots, even designing safer self-driving cars.
So it's not just about making things look cool on a screen.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding and predicting how things behave in the real world.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the faster a physics engine can run simulations, the faster we can test ideas, develop new technologies, and solve complex problems.
Which brings us back to Genesis and this mind-boggling speed.
Yeah, 43 million frames per second, like we were saying.
How does it achieve that? It's not like they just cranked up the processor speed, right?
Genesis leverages the power of GPUs, or graphics processing units.
Okay.
These were initially designed for graphics, but they're incredibly efficient at parallel processing.
Parallel processing.
Yeah, performing multiple calculations simultaneously.
Uh-huh.
Genesis takes full advantage of this, allowing it to run simulations orders of magnitude faster than traditional methods.
So instead of tackling one problem at a time, it's like having an army of mathematicians all working together in unison.
That's a great analogy.
Mm.
This parallel processing power is a game changer.
Especially when you consider the complexity of the simulations we're talking about.
Exactly. We're not just talking about simple things here.
And it's not just about simulating rigid objects bouncing around, right?
No.
I read that Genesis can handle all sorts of materials and phenomena.
Absolutely. We're talking solids, liquids, gases, even things like cloth fire and smoke.
Really?
Imagine designing a new type of fabric and being able to simulate how it drapes and moves in different conditions, all within a virtual environment.
That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing.
It's like having a virtual laboratory where you can experiment with anything you can imagine.
Yeah. And speaking of pushing boundaries, I came across this term in the research, generative 4D worlds.
Generative 4D worlds. What in the world does that mean?
Now, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
We're used to thinking in 3D length, width, and height.
Right.
But Genesis adds a fourth dimension, time.
Time.
Yeah, this allows it to simulate not just how things look and move right now, but how they change and evolve over time.
So you're saying it's not just a snapshot,
Yep.
but an entire movie of how something behaves over time.
Precisely imagine simulating the construction of a bridge.
Wow.
Seeing how different materials react to stress and weather conditions over decades, all in a matter of minutes or hours.
That's incredible.
Or you could simulate the growth of a city, observing how traffic patterns and population density evolve over time.
So instead of waiting years to see how a real-world experiment plays out, you can fast forward through time within a Genesis simulation.
Yeah, that's the power of it.
That has huge implications for everything from urban planning to climate change research.
Absolutely. The ability to simulate complex systems over time allows us to make more informed decisions, test different scenarios, and potentially mitigate risks before they become real-world problems.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
I know, right?
And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah, just scratching the surface.
We haven't even touched on some of the other key features of Genesis.
Like its natural language integration?
Natural language integration.
Yeah, the potential to control simulations just by talking to them.
Wow.
And then there's the fact that it's open source, which has huge implications for accessibility and collaboration.
We'll have to dive into those more when we come back.
Definitely a lot more to discuss.
But we'll save those discussions for later. Welcome back. We were exploring the incredible speed and capabilities of Genesis before.
Right, and it's clear this isn't just another physics engine.
Definitely not.
It has the potential to reshape entire industries.
Yeah, and we've talked about its potential in scientific research and urban planning, but
the applications go even further. Let's take robotics, for instance.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges in robotics is training robots to perform complex tasks in real-world environments.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's time-consuming, expensive, and often involved a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, teaching a robot to navigate a busy factory floor or perform delicate surgery,
Exactly.
that takes a lot of practice.
But with Genesis,
Huh.
we can create highly realistic virtual environments where robots can learn and practice these skills in a safe and controlled setting.
So it's like a virtual training ground for robots.
Yes, what might have taken weeks or months of real-world training could potentially be achieved in a matter of hours or days using Genesis.
So instead of risking damage to equipment or even human safety,
Right.
we can let robots make their mistakes in the virtual world until they get it right.
Exactly.
That's a game changer for industries that rely on automation.
Absolutely. Think about manufacturing logistics, even healthcare.
Wow.
Genesis could accelerate the development of more sophisticated and capable robots,
Leading to...
increased efficiency, lower costs, and potentially even safer working environments.
And what about the entertainment industry?
Oh, yeah.
We touched on special effects earlier.
Right.
But could Genesis revolutionize the way we create animated movies and video games?
Definitely imagine video games where the physics are so realistic it feels like you're actually in the game world. Characters could move and interact with their environment with a level of detail and nuance we've never seen before.
And for animated films.
Yeah, Genesis could bring a whole new level of realism and depth to the storytelling, blurring the lines between animation and live action.
I can already picture those epic action sequences in the next blockbuster movie.
Powered by Genesis.
Exactly. And speaking of blurring lines, we have to talk about the natural language integration feature.
Oh, yeah. This is where things get really futuristic.
Imagine creating a virtual world simply by describing it.
You could say something like, Genesis create a lush forest with a flowing river and a mountain range in the background. And it would build that world for you.
That's wild. It's like having a virtual world builder at your command.
It really is.
What are the implications of this kind of technology?
The possibilities are endless.
Okay.
It could revolutionize the way we design and interact with virtual environments.
So architects could use it to quickly prototype building designs.
Yeah, filmmakers could create elaborate sets without ever leaving their studio.
And educators could build immersive learning environments
that transport students to different parts of the world or even different points in history.
So Genesis isn't just a tool for experts.
No, not at all.
It has the potential to democratize access to advanced simulation technology.
Putting it in the hands of anyone with an idea and a vision.
That's a key point.
And it's further amplified by the fact that Genesis is open source.
Right. We mentioned that earlier, but
I think it's worth diving into a bit more.
For sure. What does it mean for a physics engine like Genesis to be open source?
It means that the source code is freely available for anyone to use, modify, and distribute. This fosters a collaborative development process where researchers, developers, and enthusiasts from all over the world can contribute to making Genesis even better.
So it's a global effort.
And it also makes the technology more accessible, lowering the barrier to entry for individuals and small organizations who might not have the resources to develop their own physics engine from scratch.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the community and the collaborative spirit behind it.
Precisely, the open source nature of Genesis is a testament to the belief that great ideas can come from anywhere, and that by working together, we can create something truly remarkable.
Well said. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I have to say I'm incredibly excited about the potential of Genesis.
Me too.
But I also recognize that any technology this powerful comes with a responsibility to use it wisely.
Absolutely. We've seen throughout history that any technological advancement can be used for both good and bad purposes. It's up to us to ensure that Genesis is used ethically and responsibly.
And that its benefits are shared widely.
Of course.
And that we mitigate any potential negative consequences.
That's a perfect segue into our final discussion.
When we come back, we'll explore some of the broader implications of Genesis and what the future might hold for this game-changing technology. So we've spent this deep dive exploring the ins and outs of Genesis.
Yeah, from its incredible speed to its potential to reshape industries.
Now, as we wrap things up, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. We've discussed the what and the how of Genesis, but now it's time to consider the why.
The why.
What does this technology mean for us as a society?
Right, like what kind of future does it point towards?
Exactly. We've touched on some of the potential downsides.
Yeah, like job displacement,
Yeah.
the blurring of reality.
But let's flip that for a moment.
Okay.
What are some of the most exciting possibilities that Genesis unlocks?
One area that really excites me is the potential for scientific discovery.
Okay.
Imagine being able to simulate the behavior of complex systems that are currently too difficult or expensive to study in the real world.
Like what kind of systems?
Things like the human brain,
Wow.
the formation of galaxies, or the effects of climate change on a global scale.
It's like having a virtual laboratory for tackling some of the biggest challenges facing humanity.
Precisely. And because Genesis can run simulations so quickly, we can test different scenarios, tweak parameters.
And gain insights.
Yeah, that would have taken years or even decades using traditional methods.
This could lead to breakthroughs in medicine, energy, environmental science.
Countless other fields.
It's not just about solving problems, though.
Right.
Genesis could also spark entirely new avenues of creativity and innovation.
Absolutely. Think about architects designing buildings that adapt to their environment in real time. Or artists creating immersive virtual experiences that blur the lines between the physical and the digital.
The possibilities are truly limitless.
They really are.
It's almost like Genesis is giving us a new set of tools to understand and interact with the world around us.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it to expand our knowledge, solve problems, and create new forms of expression.
We've talked about the potential of Genesis to empower scientists, artists, and engineers. But what about everyday people? How could this technology impact our lives in a more tangible way?
Well, imagine personalized education tailored to your specific learning style and pace, or virtual travel experiences that feel so real. It's like you're actually there.
Wow.
Genesis could even help us design smarter cities that are more efficient, sustainable, and enjoyable to live in.
It seems like there's an element of accessibility here that's really important.
Yeah, we've talked about how the open source nature of Genesis allows for broader participation in its development.
Right.
But it also feels like it has the potential to democratize access to these powerful tools.
I completely agree. And the fact that Genesis is built on Python, a widely used and relatively easy to learn programming language, means that it's not just limited to experts in computer science or physics.
Anyone with an interest and a bit of dedication can dive in and start exploring its capabilities.
So in a way, Genesis is not just a technological breakthrough, it's also a cultural shift.
Interesting.
It's opening up new possibilities for collaboration, creativity, and innovation across all sectors of society.
That's a great point, and it highlights the importance of education and outreach.
Yeah, we need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn about Genesis, understand its potential.
In shaping its future.
Because ultimately, the future of Genesis is not predetermined.
No.
It's up to us to decide what we want to do with it.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool. Like any tool can be used for good or ill.
It's our responsibility to guide its development in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
Well said.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Genesis, I think the key takeaway is this. This is a technology with immense potential, but it's up to us to decide what that potential looks like.
I couldn't agree more. We need to be mindful of the risks, but also embrace the possibilities.
It's an exciting time to be alive, and I, for one, am eager to see what the future holds for Genesis and for all of us.
Me too. Thanks for having me on to discuss it.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to think about the role of technology in shaping our world.
It's a big topic.
If you're interested in learning more about Genesis, we've included some links in the show notes. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.